in.
All right, Dustin Nemos, thanks for joining us. And Grimerica, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Shout out to Zach Schmidt from the Schmidt House. He connected us together, and I listened to that episode. It was pretty interesting. And I looked at all. I mean, you got such a fascinating, load of work there. A bunch of couple websites and a lot of investigation, and it's just. I mean, I think it's worth just maybe just doing the sort of the Reader's Digest version of your sort of journey into like where you're at right now on the internet. Because it's it's an interesting. We all have parallels during that time from 2016ish and stuff. So it'll be good to. I know you've probably said it like a million times, but
my story is probably going to ring with a lot of people who will, they'll hear their own story in it or parts of it. As a young guy, teenager, about 16 years old, when I got my first computer, which is back when dial-up made that funky noise to get on. But I played video games, but that was pre-censorship. And like when I was not playing video games, I was trying to help my grandparents get through cancer and go through like big pharma sort of cut, poison, burn treatments. And I started quickly to realize how corrupt it was. And, they didn't listen to me, but I developed a pretty good understanding of alternative medicine and health. I wanted to keep myself healthy and try to protect those I loved in the future from big pharma, so to speak. And it wasn't long before I got my first like FBI visit from the FBI, the state BI, so the State Bureau of Investigation also, and the local sheriff doing a threat assessment on me as a teenager because I was like speaking out against Monsanto on Facebook. So, early on, I was trying to help people. That led into just a lifetime obsession with researching all of the corruption, deep state, conspiracies, financial, investment, economic, historical, philosophical, theological. It's just been going down all the rabbit holes, connecting the dots. And in 2017, late 2017, I started to talk about politics on YouTube, and it just blew up, 1,200 subs a day, sort of pre-major AI censorship, etc. Although I was quickly manually censored, and they kept censoring me manually until they got that AI in. But at the end of the day, it's just this great awakening that happened. Sort of, we saw the energy with Brexit, then Trump sort of rode that wave. I had hope. I had hope that we could wake people up. We've done a lot of good since that time. I mean, back then it was kind of lonely to be a conspiracy theorist. And today it's more fun. We have tribes of it. We talk about it on the internet, and we are taking down the establishment, and they're getting violent. They can't handle the truth anymore. So they have to shut it down, suppress it, censor it, switch from bread and circus and carrot to stick. And that's kind of where we are now. They are trying to outlaw free speech because of some of the things that myself and you guys and a few other people, not many, but it's a growing number, are saying on the internet. So we're having an impact. And I guess that's where we leave off now. Journalist, reporter, author, historian, documentary filmmaker, songwriter. I got a bunch of hats, pastor, whatever you want. I'm a truther. I'm a father, and I'm a Christian.
Nice. So what was it like for you in 2016 with Trump? And because we went through our whole, we lost a lot of audience. Not that we were full in, but we talked about it a bit too much probably. And we lost half the normal audience. We're talking about things like ancient mysteries and sort of more normal conspiracies, some of them like big pharma ones that we didn't realize at the time were sort of like now they've been deleted off YouTube, for example, even though they're from like 2017, 2018. But
sure.
But I like the aspect of the change, the potential to change, and the bull in the China shop type thing. And like I felt like we needed that. And then and I've heard you say it too, and I'm with you in this aspect that like with the warp speed thing. I mean, like I just was like so disappointed that. Not that I really trusted, not that I was fully in and trusting that.
We were pretty in, though. I mean, we told people to vote for him. Like, he got us. He was saying all the right things for conspiracy theorists. Like they're criminals, they're going to jail. He said the Clintons murdered people. We had been saying the Clintons had murdered people for years, and he got us. He Pied Pipered us into like Graham said, we kind of lost half of the audience because we were like, You know, this guy seems like a better guy to vote for than the establishment. And then he fucking, the craziest shit that's ever happened happened under his watch.
Well, don't feel bad. He got me too. I was one of his biggest supporters. I helped prove the connection between QAnon and Trump, and I feel shame for having popularized the whole Q thing and helping do that. They used to come after me in the media back when I still supported Trump and Q. I mean, we can prove they're together, but obviously they both betrayed us. And this vaccine, Operation Warp the Seed or Warp Seed, depending on how you want to say it, the 666 mark of the beast symbolism is all there. So don't feel bad. He was prophesied to deceive many. He is the son of perdition.
So it's really, so you've gone from like, that's where it's at right now. So like if he was to own up to this big mistake and say like, because he did have the opportunity to shut the whole global thing down. I mean, I was at that point where it's like, he must know, because he had advisors in there too that knew what was going on. I mean, they could have shut the whole thing down, and I knew how tough that would have been, but seeing that he didn't, and then seeing that he was still sort of talking about how good Warp Speed was. But what if he owned all that and then went against Big Pharma? Would that change your mind or anybody's mind, do you think?
Well, he was invested in Big Pharma, but at the end of the day, he is not doing that. He doubled down on the booster shots for children, everything. And then he is tripling down, attacking RFK Jr. and others who are telling the truth, although only in this one area. Of course, they're both Jewish puppets. And who was he surrounded by during all of this? Jewish advisors, Jewish cabinet, everything Jewish about him. He is himself a crypto Jew. He's checked off 90% of the son of perdition check boxes so far. There's only like a few left.
What does that mean? So is that
means he is the Antichrist?
That's the Antichrist. Okay, that's what I thought we were going to get into. So before we get into that, though, because I was just going off the other day, because I got some people that are like, well, if we could get a Milei in, or whatever that dude down in South America is, if we get him in, maybe we can spin things around. And I'm like, the dude went and touched the Jew wall. Like within the first 2 weeks of being in charge, he went and touched the Jew wall. So I'm like, and Buddy's like, what? What do you mean? And I'm like, I'm telling you, as soon as these guys touch that fucking wall with the funny hat on, I'm like, it's bullshit. You can't trust them.
I've touched the wall before.
Yeah, but you weren't voted a leader and then had to do it within, it would seem like a set amount of time. They all do it within like a couple of weeks.
Go back and watch the way that Trump specifically, or any of them, actually touch that wall. They're humping it. It is a sex ritual to invoke the Antichrist.
No.
They call it a Shekinah. Yeah. It's totally, they hump the thing. It's meant to impregnate the demonic spirit that inhabits that wall to bring about the Antichrist. And he humps too. They move they do this motion like this. Like, he does it more than most do. In fact, he's actually pretty brave about it. But that is the nature of this ritual that they go and do. They're impregnating the demonic spirit. They're summoning the Antichrist.
So it's not King Charles. It's not our King Charles, like Canada's King Charles.
He's a scrawny, uncharismatic pedophile who is also evil, but does not fit almost any of the criteria of the actual son of perdition. So people like to say evil, powerful, therefore son of perdition, Antichrist. But that's not how the Bible has very specific criteria. For example, the son of perdition is described as stout. Well, that puts Charles right out. He's also charismatic. I mean, Charles is not charismatic, and none of that family are charismatic. So there's a lot of things that just do not qualify. So there's a lot of people misdirecting people to Charles who have probably never read the Bible.
Well, when he does this, what did you think about this whole painting thing? I mean, Darren was so fascinated by it that he went and put it together.
Well, I didn't believe.
Sure.
It does blow me away. But the reason I seen is because I see all this shit on the internet nowadays, and I just can't trust anything. I don't trust things from my side. I don't trust things from the conspiracy side. I don't trust anything from their side, because people are just making shit up for clicks. We're at that point of the internet. So I seen them where they flipped the picture upside down, shrunk it by 20% on each side, and put them together, and you get Baphomet. So I went and did it myself in our image editing software, and it did it. So we did a little video on it. I did it with Graham, because I'm like, there's no way that's an accident, man. There's no fucking way. Can it be an accident?
Well, no, I did a great breakdown on this on the SGT report, going into what the symbolism means, etc. But in short, like in very brief short, like they're just hailing Satan. They're claiming membership in the secret societies and such. That doesn't mean that they are themselves like the son of perdition. Like if you look at Google Chrome's logo, it's a 666. That doesn't mean that Google or their president or whoever's the son of perdition. They are all on the same team. And if they're flaunting the symbolism or horns and Baphomet type things, which goes back to Baal, Nimrod, the Bible, the Old Testament, the guy who tried to Space Force and kill God with the Tower of Babel. That's what original Space Force was to try to kill God. And that's why we have Space Force now, is to try to stop Jesus, who's coming soon. It's an incredible story where the symbolism, it all speaks to it as well. But in essence, I see, I kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It was about King Charles, and
there's a lot of places that we could take that, but basically, King Charles has the butterfly on his shoulder, which is a symbolism, as many people know, for MK Ultra, mind control, monarch, sex slaves, which I assume is how they controlled him. Do you remember those portraits of like George Bush with his little paper plane and the Jenga towers? Well, some Jew controls that guy. That's what that means. And also, you had the one of Bill Clinton in the Monica blue dress, right?
Right. This is interesting.
Well, some Jew controls that. These are trophies. These are trophy portraits of who they control and how they control them, or what they did.
Okay,
so he's being controlled by his obsession with child sex, little girls. That's what that butterfly means, and he serves Baphomet. Yeah, and the Baphomet is Apollyon or Nimrod. So I've got a little delay. Sorry, because I'm on satellite. So, but.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, that's fascinating. Those three paintings, and it really does sort of fit with what you could say they're sort of controlled by during their era, you know.
Yeah, someone's showing off who owns him. And remember who poked his chest? Like a Rothschild pokes the king's chest. We know who's really in charge. And it ain't the royal family. They're just part of it. I mean, they're part of the tribe. They're infiltrators. They're respected members of Satanism, so to speak. They're probably very high level. But there's a lot more to this in terms of the actual prophecy. There's a lot of prophecies that deal with who that person would be. And 90% of it's already done with Trump.
What's the 10?
Well, there's like reconfirming, for example, the Abraham Accords. He has to reconfirm the peace agreement between Islam and the rest of the world now, because he's probably the only person who could. So he's going to save us from this war with Islam, who's about ready to completely destroy us because of what they're doing to them in the Middle East. We're just dropping American bombs on babies left and right there. Thanks, Jews. And that's basically going to start a war. And they're looking to start a war and sort of force West versus East and Middle East at the same time, after they've depleted and destroyed our military, poisoned our pilots, etc. We don't even have any ammo to fight a war now. And he just depleted our last of our oil reserves as well, right before we go into this war. So we're going to be fighting this World War III with sticks at the end of the day. And they're setting us up for total decimation, famine, World War III, the so-called pandemic that's coming, where they have stuff already baked in. There will be massive death, unfortunately.
Against how is that going to look like from an external? How is it going to look from an external point of view? Like, is it going to be China and Russia against us? Is it going to be how's that going to go down, you think?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, at this point, if they were to decimate and destroy America, who could blame them? Because of all of the stuff that we're helping to do in the world. So it's really a satanic West against sort of a Christian Putin and a communist Xi exoterically. That's like the outside script that we're going with, whatever. In reality, Putin is a Jewish blender. Zelensky is a Jewish meat pusher, and he is pushing all of the white meat into the Russian blender. And that's about to happen with all of Europe and America and the UK, all of whom are now talking about implementing the draft or bringing back conscription. They're all about to start drafting all the whiteys and forcing them into the meat grinder, which is not meant to be one, where they basically just take kids off the street in the Ukraine, force them into the back of a van, give them a gun without any training, and force march them into landmines and artillery fire. It is meant to destroy their enemy. This is a completely Jewish contrived brother war of Christians to kill whites and enslave the rest of the world. This is what they have been writing about and plotting in their own religion for thousands of years.
And
they
Trump's
want to wipe out their enemies.
And Trump, is this going to happen after Trump gets reelected, or is it how is this going to play out with the whole election thing coming up? I mean, because the vitriol against Trump feels real. I mean, it really does. This is one of the biggest parts of the slap that's hard to grasp, right? Is like it feels like true hatred, and they're doing everything they can not to allow him to go in. So it's really hard to.
But because there's a lot of really dumb people. You might not believe this. There's a lot of really dumb people on the left. And they also buy into this narrative, just like people on the right do, that Trump is the good guy who's going to stop all the pedophilia and all the stuff that they like. He's going to shut down all these things, even though he launched World War Gay, etc. Trump is not actually going to shut down the left, but they think he is in a lot of ways. And he's going to stop the party as a big, strong conservative, etc. So he's a threat to the chaotic, short-sighted left-wing activists and libtards, etc. But he's not actually a threat to the leaders of the Democratic Party, etc.
Okay, but I'm not talking about the common man with TDS. I'm talking about the leaders, like the vitriol coming from the establishment, right? I mean,
they were all friends. I mean, like he's friendship most of his life with the Clintons, Epstein's, etc., until he decided to suddenly become a Christian, run for president, and then poison 1 billion people worldwide. And now, ever since then, he's basically been campaigning for King of Israel, President of Israel, more than even here. He keeps saying, "I'm the chosen one." He keeps making comments about being King of Israel and sharing things from other people. He keeps talking about how he's great for the Jews, etc. Now he wants to kill the anti-Semites. He's checking off those boxes, even bringing back beheadings, which was another one for the Antichrist. So
I was just trying to convince the guys at work today. I was like, I feel like this whole trial is like, I feel like Trump just wanted it. I mean, I really don't see how it hurts him, and I only see how it helps him. I think this is all just good for his publicity for him. I don't know if he actually set it up, but it's like Graham said the other day, I wouldn't even rule out that De Niro is working for him. He's like, hey, go out there, cause a ruckus, man. They hate you. They love me. Yeah.
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
So right as the bank runs began a couple months ago, or about a year ago at this point, I don't remember exactly when it was, a week later or less, I call it the never-ending Trump arrest began, where they are going to arrest him any minute for weeks, for months. It just draws out as this thing. They kick it for as long as they can. Finally, he got the cool-looking mugshot. Wasn't really an arrest. He didn't get Roger stoned at 2 a.m. and all the, drama that ensues with that, et cetera. But everything that they're doing for him, it's kind of like that child's punching bag, the one that pops back up. You start to feel bad for that thing after a while because they're just zooming in on it and it's poor feelings, but it's a punching bag. That's what it does. And they're giving it free publicity by the trillions of dollars. That's what Trump is getting. If you were to do half to me of what they're doing to Trump and give me 10% of the publicity he has, I could change the world. What they're doing is effectively creating their own good guy for everybody to trust, who will then use that trust to take us down, like he already did once with the jab, second time with World War Gay, third time with the mass money printing, fourth time with standing down to the coup, which was clearly a coup, and he clearly had the power to not stand down. He even had the authority to basically declare martial law, et cetera, or he could have just said, rise up, it's time, and we would have. But he didn't. He stood down to the coup. He gave us what we have now in every way possible. So he is effectively just that guy who's supposed to save us one day who never will, who they just keep punching while we feel bad for him. He's an energy vampire while we get poisoned, while we get killed, while we get set up with famine, war, draft, disease, chemicals exploding around our families and towns all the time with trains and boats, et cetera. Every way that you can imagine that they have decided it's so far gone, they're selling baby foreskins on Craigslist as onion rings. They're crawling out of sewer tunnels. This is real.
So does that put Putin and Z with the Jews too then?
He admitted himself as a Jew in his first, second, and I think his third edition of his book, but then they took it out. He is a Jew as well on his mother and father's side.
Who, Putin?
Yeah.
And Z too?
Yeah, and Putin and Trump basically have the same Chabad rabbi. They have the same back channel. Chabad controls all of it. You're muted, Graham.
Sorry. Can you get into that coup a little bit more when you talked about how I want to just understand what you're saying about that, how he could have stopped the coup, but he didn't.
Well, see, he was an ineffectual leader. It was his duty to stop this nation from being overran by this theft, this coup, and also to stop the so-called pandemic, et cetera, which, he Operation Warp Sped. If you look at Operation Warp the Seed, as I call it, 666 Mark of the Beast, mind control, all of it right there in Hebrew. Just look it up. I've got it broken down at the Serapeum if you want the imagery like displayed and like all of it decoded for you, but it's there. So he gave us the mark of the beast, which, by the way, takes God's name, Yahweh, off of every cell of your body and puts 666 where it used to be, according to the Moderna patent. So they take ATCG, repeating on every polynucleotide structure in your body, sort of like the bridge, like scientifically, genetically, that's the guardian bridge to the nucleus, to the king of your cells, basically, to the core of yourself. Nothing gets in there. Nothing can change your DNA normally, but they have found a way through mRNA to bridge that. And now they can take God's name in your ATCG, repeating polynucleotide structure for the geneticists out there, and they can insert extra C's, so you get ATCCCG instead. So you get 666 right where God's name used to be. So, this is truly the mark of the beast. It's just not quite finished yet. Once they add the digital currency and they force it on people, it is 100% check. So in answer to your earlier question, I think Trump term 2 is the Bible's great tribulation. I think he's going to start beheading the anti-Semites like he's talking about. I think he's going to basically bomb or nuke China and Russia, because that's the only weapons we have left, and he's already talking about it. And it's going to be World War III. It's going to be very bad. It's going to be a lot of persecution. It's probably going to only last for 3 or 4 years. And at the end of that, the world will be much less populated. And in terms of the coup, I mean, Sidney Powell talked about it, how ineffectual he was on that night, how he had given her sort of the leave to do something and then didn't back it up, how everybody around him was basically just talking him down. And let's be honest, he surrounded himself with weak swamp creatures to begin with. And all the way through, even with all of his endorsements later, like Dr. Oz, the pervert, and McCarthy, the obvious, turncoat, etc. He just kept pushing these bad people on us because that's what he was there to do. He's there to just redirect our energy right back into the system.
Right. So when you say coup, you mean the steal, basically. Stop the steal.
Stop the steal, but he didn't. He could have, but he chose not to. He had the authority. He had the military. He had the trust. He had the people.
He had the data.
Everything he needed. He had the data. He could have just arrested everybody, but he is one of them. Why would he?
Yeah, it's a complex, dude. It's just hard. It's hard. It's a complex thing. I just feel like it's really it's almost too well orchestrated.
I've boiled it down, and where I've got this article that's called The Indefensible Vaccine Promotion of Trump or something like that. Let me look it up. Trump's Indefensible Promotion of Suicide Shots. It's on the Nemos News Network site. I go through all of the arguments. I like to debate, and I'm trained in philosophy and such.
Well, he piped us all on the vaccines. It was kind of ironic because he went into it saying he was going to look into the vaccine schedule, and you don't even have to say that. You didn't have to say that. You didn't have to bring up fucking vaccines.
He had foreknowledge as well.
The first week or two into his thing, he's like, you got to get your shots. There's that measles outbreak in that old Jewish community in New York, allegedly. And he's like, these people got to get the shots. And it's like, you've already backtracked on the measles, and then sure enough, 2 years later, it's the biggest vaccine rollout in the history of the world.
Yeah. Have you guys heard of Occam's razor? It's a logical tool. Basically,
the simplest answer is usually the right one.
Right. So in that case, Trump is either, and I've gotten everything you can think of that people will use to defend him. I've got it broken down and an argument against it on there. So if you're having a hard time like getting to the Trump people, I got it crushed. I like to debate. It's fun for me. But in short, he is either too stupid to understand that we were poisoned, despite his foreknowledge, despite all of his advisors, despite being a celebrity billionaire hero, or he was in on it. There is no third option. He's either evil or stupid. So is he going to let us down again, or is he going to betray us again? You got two choices. That's the only option.
Well,
And
here's
it's
the
hard to
thing.
know
Here's the
from
thing.
what-
Here's the other thing is that we all knew. We all fucking knew. And none of us are geniuses. You know, we all knew. Nobody really in our circle of the internet got them fucking shots. And from day one, we were all sort of on board. I mean, it's not perfect. There's a few outliers that maybe didn't, but for the most part, it's almost everybody Graham and I know, in, you know, not in real life, but in this, like, all of our podcaster buddies, all the people we do events with, to like almost to a person, they're like, nah, man, no. And then we'll even have people on the show now that you don't even know. You're not even going to talk about that, but it ends up coming up in the pre-chat or it comes up someplace in the show. And, you know, we're constantly like, I can't believe how everyone sort of in this corner of the internet thinks like we do. Yeah. But Trump couldn't fucking figure it. You know, we had it figured out when they were first talking about it. We're like, they're rolling out mandatory vaccines. Is this going to be it? Is this the fake one? In the beginning, Graham and I were like, nah, this can't be the actual one. This is them, like, you know, checking it out. And then in a couple years, they're going to come back again at some mandatory shots. And then, like, not long into it, by like April or May of 2020, we're like, okay, this is going to get fucking crazy. It's going to get crazy. They're going to roll out mandatory shots. So I tend to agree that fucking how the fuck Trump didn't see that coming. He lost all his credibility with me. And Graham eventually, Graham hung on longer than I, and him and I argued at the end of it because we both got Pied Pipered into him. And then we were both able to walk away and say, nah, this guy, the guy that's fucking saving us would have never warp speeded you and forced you to get a fucking vaccine. And you can say, oh, he didn't force me. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. He fucking tried. He tried, and he could have just said no. He could have said no, and he didn't.
He Operation Warp Speed. He put a known genocidal maniac behind HIV, etc. Dr. Fauci. I am the science Fauci up there to basically poison us. So he did it by proxy, but he poisoned the world. 1 billion people have been poisoned or more. The world is now declining in population and also no longer able to make babies for the most part, except Israel, of course. So he also, at the same time, while he was doing all of that, he did some early executive orders which proved foreknowledge for this stuff. And he put up the 5G tower. He allowed the 5G towers to start going up on his watch as well.
Not only that, man, the vaccines were made. The fucking vaccines were made. There's no way they made 10 billion vaccines in a couple of months. Those things were made and sitting on shelves. They fucking had to be. Do the math. Just do the math on how long it takes to make a fucking thing and put it in the vial and just
we can show they made.
You can't make 10 billion anything in 2 months. You just fucking can't.
We have a surprising amount of the records to prove that it was the Jews, that they did it on purpose, that they had foreknowledge, that they
now
knew
that we're out of bullets,
etc.
Now that we're out of bullets, they can't make more bullets this quick, but they've been making those a lot quicker than they've been making billions and billions of vaccines, but they can't rearm the armory as quick as they can fucking roll out 10 billion vaccines.
We still have fire and pitchforks. I have faith.
So it's funny. I was gonna ask about your last name, and somebody in the chats mentioned that you might be a Fed. Do you ever get called controlled op and your name Nemos, like in Latin? What it means? Like how does that argument go?
Yeah, it's a simple explanation. The same reason our founding fathers went anonymous for safety, and most of them were still killed. I chose an anonymous name during an Anon movement to try to protect my family. And as soon as Jack Posobiec doxed me, my 80-something-year-old grandmother starts getting 2 a.m. gang stalking by Antifa. So that's why I did it. That's not my real name, Nemos. It's just who people know me by. But Nemos is just Latin for no one. It's not Jewish for no one. So I was trying to be humble. I was trying to keep my family safe. You know, this stresses my wife. We've had to flee numerous homes already, possibly now having to flee Florida because of persecution, just like scripture says, you know, flee it. I don't want to, but I don't want to get Roger Stone with guns pointed at my kids at 2 a.m. either for something that I said on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. True. Yeah, exactly. So, and then somebody else mentioned about, come on, man, they ain't going to nuke nothing. And I mean, we just finished saying that you know, 1 billion or however many people were injected with this. I mean, it's really not hard to go there from what we've seen happen in the last few years. I mean, it's really not hard to go there. I mean, the data's there. Everybody should know what's going on by now.
And for the West, they won't need a nuke. Those blue lights that are growing up on all the streets and the street corners and the stoplights and such, those, I recently discovered this, are able to trigger in people that have a certain virus, a violent rabid-like rage, where they basically start attacking anything around them, even inanimate objects. You ever seen the movie Kingsman, where Samuel L. Jackson is playing this Elon Musk figure? He gives away free cell phones, and then he beams a signal, and everybody in the church and everybody just starts killing each other with anything around. Tooth, nail, claw, knife, pencil, whatever they got. They just start murdering each other. Mothers try to kill their babies. This is what they're planning. And as soon as they turn on that blue light, after they have set a 5G pulse 3 times, all of the liposomal encapsulated viruses that were injected into the body, along with the rest of that junk, the liposomal fat cells are still just stuck there, just like anybody else's fat. And when those break down and release the Marsburg virus and some of these other weird ones that I don't remember the name of, there's interviews out there with doctors and scientists and lawyers, and et cetera, and they break it down better than I do. I think I forget the name of the interview, but you can find it. It's on my the Black Plague 2.0 article, or the Mark of the Beast article. It's all on those 2 articles. But basically, they can release what would look like a zombie apocalypse by making people die of viruses at the same time that will shut down their higher functioning, make them rabid, make them violent, and make them contagious with Marsburg, which would be 50% or so fatality if they start biting people. So it'd be a short-lived zombie apocalypse where they just start biting people and killing everybody until they drop dead a couple hours or days later. You're on mute still, Graham.
Blame it on the bird flu?
Yeah, probably. And, they're going to have enough to then martial law or lock down whatever's left with pretty much no argument left. And those of us who know what's going on, who refuse to take the mark or participate in the beast system or, keep the name of Christ, et cetera, we're going to be beheaded. We're going to be locked up.
So that's what the guillotines are for? Because I've still been waiting to see all these guillotines that True Ott told us about a couple years ago.
Obama's guillotines. Trump's going to use them. Trump term 2 is the Great Tribulation of the Book of Revelation.
So tell me some good news, Dustin.
The good news is that God wins in the end. Prophecy is actually 100% accurate every single time across thousands of years, thousands of times, in sync, hundreds, maybe thousands of times as well. So prophecy is this living organism. It's a map of all time that was spoken at the beginning, basically, and it's all true ever since. So when I became a Christian, first, when I realized God was real, I didn't know which God. I had to do some investigation. Only one Bible has not only the super accurate history books in the Bible, the most accurate history history collection that we have is the Bible itself. It's a library of history books, witnesses. But beyond that, every single prophecy in there has happened or is, of course, going to happen. There's a few left. Every single miracle in there, like the flood, the worldwide flood that ended all life that people think didn't happen, all of that stuff happened. We can prove every bit of it. People think that there's no evidence for it. I was a lifelong devout anti-God atheist until I started to look into the evidence and test all things and hold fast that which is true, like Scripture says. And now I'm a scientific fundamentalist, which confuses people. But science confirms God. They don't want us to know this. The Jews are behind all of this fake science stuff.
And this has only been since 2017, 2018, since you've been researching on this?
Well, I have been researching, like I said, since I was 17. I'm 36.
Right.
So, it's been about 18 or 19 years of research, but the last 3 or 4 years where I got the seed war piece of the puzzle was basically the last piece of the puzzle for me. And I'm sure that there's more to learn, obviously. But in terms of connecting all the dots to every conspiracy that has ever happened, the seed war of Genesis 3:15 connects everything. Every bad thing that has ever happened from Adam and Eve, all the way from creation to COVID and beyond. So the only good news that we have left is that God wins in the end. We're very close to the end now. It's going to get bad, but then it's going to get great for those who survive or died in his name. We're there.
So how do you deal with the black pillness of all this? I mean, and just like it'll all be okay because.
Oh man, I was in a dark place. I had a beard, like it was down to like here. It was big, gray, crazy beard. I was getting kind of like man on the mountain syndrome. And I was in a dark night of the soul, as the poets call it, for about a year. I didn't know how to talk about this stuff. I didn't know how to go after Trump yet. I hadn't developed the words and the evidence and the base of the library that I've got now. And I was still having doubts. I didn't know if people would even listen to this. And I didn't want to start saying Jews are demons from the Bible, etc., until I could prove it for sure. But when I saw that Trump was the bad guy, I had a very dark period of time until I started to study prophecy. And then I saw hope beyond Trump. Trump is like this so-called savior figure, and we're walking toward a cliff. And if you're watching Trump's back, I guess you're not looking at that cliff, and it makes you feel better. But if you're watching Trump's back, he's going to piper you off that cliff. And the only bridge across that chasm that's coming up across that cliff is prophecy. If you got prophecy, you're good. You know what's about to happen. You're sitting comfortable no matter what happens, even if it's bad, even if it happens to you.
What if I don't accept Jesus Christ as my personal savior? Because I've had a few people that told me because I'm a Christian, I'm out. What's your take on that?
What do you, well,
because, we have some people on this as part of the 144, but if you're, when Revelation comes, when this shit goes down, if I'm not a Christ believing Christian, then I'm not on the list of people that get to survive. Like, what's your take on that? I mean, it's just because then other people are like, well, if you just live the life the right way and you did the right choices and that, then, that's how it works. But so how does that work in your...
Most Christians don't get in either. In fact, most Christians have been taught by the Jews that Christ died to get rid of the law. In fact, Christ died to bring the law back. He actually promised as he died that not one iota would pass from the law until heaven and earth pass. And anybody that teaches that the law has been done away with is considered the least. It also talks about once you know that the law is required, if you reject the law willfully, you lose salvation, you lose grace. You are no longer forgiven. Jesus' sacrifice no longer counts for you. And certain expectation of judgment is all that remains. This is very unpopular. I get a lot of heat for this, even in Christian circles. I'd be considered a heretic. But the truth is, only lawkeepers of the Torah who keep the name of Christ, Yeshua, Jesus, have a chance. And not only do they have a chance to avoid some of the pain and suffering, just like the people in the Exodus were somewhat protected, and lawkeepers were protected throughout the scripture. And I'm not here to push Christianity on anybody. I mean, I was a lifelong atheist. I'm certainly not proselytizing. But the truth is the satanic deep state is at war with God, and there's only one God that they're at war with. There's only one savior figure that they hate above all other figures. There's only one religion that they hate and persecute and want to ban. And the truth is, there's only one name that can get you through salvation. So, yeah, if you're not a Christian who has accepted Christ and preferably a lawkeeper, maybe innocence is a little bit of protection if you don't know, but you won't necessarily get into the afterlife. Yeah, that would be accurate.
I wanted to ask you
about it's not my rules. I'm just reporting.
Darren, do you have any follow-up on that?
No, it's just because that would, that puts out half the planet that, might not even have heard of Jesus. What happens to them?
Well, it was prophesied. One of the many prophecies was basically that everybody would have heard and have gotten a chance by the end. So now the whole world has heard, and something called the fullness of the nations has come to pass. And now the end times events are basically swinging into fast gear.
What about the already dead people?
Well, there were people who died having never heard, and they are judged at a slightly different standard. There were people who died before Jesus even came on the scene, like Abraham, and he was also considered righteous through faith, etc. So there are other ways to judge folks. But having heard...
From the Canadian Indian perspective, the last time Jesus was over here, he was kind of burning our villages and stealing our kids. So
that
is
wouldn't
there
be
what in that, that's in, obviously it wasn't Jesus, but they had all that stuff on their hat. So that was...
okay. So here's what happened basically. And I used to hate Christianity because I thought Christians did a lot of bad things to good people throughout history.
But
the
regardless...
Catholic Church basically murdered 50 million Christians for keeping the Bible or for sharing the Bible. And they would tie their Bible around their neck and burn them at the stake or crucify them or torture them to death, etc. So the actual Jewish deep state of Rome, which tried to monopolize and change and pervert Christian doctrine by just basically putting paganism with Christian names like Easter and Christmas, Those guys have been doing a lot of evil things. That deep state has been mostly Jewish controlled the whole time. The real Christians were the ones that they were killing, the simple villagers who were out there like debating them. And the Roman bishop didn't like it, and he came back with soldiers. And this happened numerous times, like the Lollards and others. So it wasn't the Christians that did this, although they would, of course, wear a Christian cross, etc., because they want to defame the name of Christ. The Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, the Jewish Society of Jesus in Rome, take oaths to kill babies. There's nothing Jesus about that, but they put the name on there the same way they'll put the Happy Care Bear type names on these laws that they pass, which do the exact opposite and enslave us, although it sounds good. They will put a swastika tattoo on and call themselves a Nazi and commit war crimes against babies in Ukraine, but then they'll go pray at the Wailing Wall with a yarmulke. That's what these people are. It's who they've always been. So you have to look beyond just the face that they're wearing and look for the actual root of that. And that root that you're talking about is not of Christ. It's of
How are
government.
they to know that, though? How do they get to figure that out? I mean, because they're just sort of tainted now in this, how do you recover from that?
You test the spirits. The Bible condemns pretty much all of that stuff, and it certainly. I mean, you're supposed to kill witches. You're supposed to kill like certain things. There's death penalty for certain things. There's laws in there, yeah, a lot simpler than the IRS tax laws. But in terms of morality and such, like violence is very low on the list. For example, those who kill babies are condemned. It's better for you to have a millstone, one of those big round rocks, tied around your neck and thrown in the sea, it says, than to hurt children. In the Talmud religion, of course, or in most governments, deep state, etc., they hurt kids. So you test the spirits. Are they actually following the book that they claim on their symbol or their shield or whatever? They never do. And most Christian pastors don't either. That's why they have no idea if giants were really real. They don't know that you're supposed to follow the law. They have no idea about dispensationalism or pre-trib rapture. Most pastors have never even read the Bible with open eyes. They've been taught with a Jewish lens how to read the Bible at some Rockefeller-funded seminary. It's always been so. That's why there's only a remnant that survive.
There's a question from Ian here about Jesus. He says, as a Christian, how can you explain the 10 or more? I don't know if it's 10 or more, but Christ-like figures that came before Christ by thousands of years, born of a virgin, crucified, risen again in 3 days, etc., etc.
It's a lie. Most of them were not born of a virgin, etc. That's actually a lie from Zeitgeist. I've met the creator. Smart guy, but there's some deceptions in there. I've got this.
I think Manly P. Hall had some of it in his. There's a lot of it. It's not just from Zeitgeist. I mean, this is he got it from somewhere. I mean, I don't know if Blavatsky talked about it in Theosophy, but I know Manly P. Hall, I think, talked about it in The Secret Teachings of All Ages. So
I've got an article called Zeitgeist Debunked. Jesus is not a copy of pagan gods at seraphim.com. Basically, they're all just like, they're just spreading a lie that doesn't have any basis for the most part, that just has spread, like the lie has spread very far and it's popular. And Zeitgeist helped popularize it. For example, almost every single one of the so-called virgin births had a man and a woman doing the naughty to have a baby. They were not virgin births. And what you see in history is, in reality, every single pagan mythology in the world is the same story with babbled names. It's all Nimrod, it's all Baal, it's all Moloch, Apollyon, Melkart, all these different names, same guy, same story, babbled tongues. What you have in history is really two religions: Satanism, paganism, whatever the different varieties of that tree, and then also the Christian Hebrew faith, Old Testament, then on to Christian faith later. And what you have is a pattern: the Son of God, the chosen champion of the Creator, versus the Sun God, Baal, and you've got this dying and resurrected Son of God versus the dying and resurrecting Son God. Totally different, but some similarities enough to confuse lay people. For example, they had the babies through the normal means, but there is a prophecy that says Baal will come back, Nimrod will come back. This came about through Semiramis. This is where you get the baby Tammuz figure, the little what we get Cupid from, the little naked baby. That's the Tammuz figure, which is their child of incest and evil. who was as evil as his father. So you get this mother figure, Semiramis, this father figure, Nimrod, and you get this child figure, Tammuz. You get this evil Trinity figure, which is represented as Mary and baby Jesus and the Pope in Catholicism. Nothing Christian about it, by the way. So you have essentially this pattern where this prophecy of dying and a resurrected sun god is opposed to, and people try to say it's a predecessor for Jesus. For example, Horus and Osiris, that whole story involved a baby, but they use that as to say that was a predecessor of Jesus that had all this other stuff like the virgin birth, because they don't even know the story of Horus and Osiris. If you actually look into any of those stories, none of them hold up. It's always, in fact, as I said, it's a pattern of a dying and resurrecting sun god, not the dying and resurrected son of God. There's an antithesis here.
So is that Old Testament then, or New Testament? Because
Nimrod is the Old Testament, but he's also he comes back as the son of perdition, Antichrist. He came back in a sense through Trump somehow. When we went to Iraq to invade the country and kill 1 million people for so-called weapons of mass destruction, what we really went in was after 3 months. 3 months after they found the body of Nimrod, we took the body out of the so-called tomb of Osiris, and we took all the resurrection cuneiform tablets, and then we pulled out. No weapons of mass destruction found, and we never returned the cuneiform tablets. And after that, DARPA and In-Q-Tel and all the government deep state money branches started to invest in resurrection technology startups. And now, a few years after that, we have woolly mammoth meatballs for climate change as big as a human head from woolly mammoth genetics, because they're resurrecting ancient creatures for the government. They have the technology, they have the body, and here comes Trump doing the things that the so-called Antichrist, son of perdition, is supposed to do, the beast at the end of the Bible. So I think he had the genetics injected in. Same thing Nimrod did. He became a monster later in life. He was not born that way. The Bible says he became a Gibberim. I think Trump just became a Gibberim with some Nimrod blood. And now we're dealing with the actual son of perdition risen from spiritually risen from hell.
So where does that put all the Muslims? Because they're kind of supposedly have a different spin on the same book, isn't it? If we're from the Old Testament, isn't that where we get the Muslim book as well?
Yeah.
The Quran?
Well, okay. So, and by the way, I want to add to that. Trump has joked apparently that his blood is in the vax. So, in terms of the Quran, it is like Islam itself has essentially like carbon copy rituals from Catholicism. They pray to the same bones at the same